Before we get started, I'd like to preface this video by saying I love Buddyfight. If you ever see me at any event, there's a high likelihood that I'll be using this deck box, which houses my buddy, the 4th Omni Lord, Burn Nova. This guy is my GOAT, okay? I really like Buddyfight. So any criticisms that I'm about to say come from a place of love. I'm not just gonna be a hater, just a hate, but I just wanna get that out of the way. I love Buddyfight. So I'm not going to do the typical just going through everything card by card and talking about it, because I already tried that, and that recording was like over an hour, and none of you want to be here for that long. So this is just going to be more of a open yap sesh about me just talking about the things I want to talk about. If you want to go look at all the cards, I'm sure you can do that on your own. There are plenty of places, or even probably YouTube videos talking about it, but here, I'm just going to talk about the things I want to talk about. This is going to be a little more unstructured than most of the videos. It's kind of just more of a yap session, so feel free to just throw on some headphones and throw this on your second monitor or something. I'm kind of just going to yap for a little bit, but I have a lot of thoughts, and this set's going to be fun to talk about. But I'm already rambling, so let's just get started at probably the best place to start, the starter, and that is with the flag, Dragon World. So, auto Vanguard, when you stand up, cost, say raise the flag. Fun part out of the way, this is a cost. If you don't say raise the flag, you have technically failed to play the cost. So if you're ever at a tournament and you're playing against a Buddyfight deck and they don't say raise the flag, call a judge. But regardless, you stand up, you say raise the flag, and you become a Buddyfighter. What this means is when you become a Buddyfighter, you put a Buddy monster from your ride deck into your order zone. Now, this is where we get into the fun part of Bushy really designed these cards with a very because Bushy said so mentality. So when you're playing Buddyfight, you just get an extra slot for your Buddy monster. Why? We don't really know. It's either because you're playing the flag as your starter or the crest maybe, but like there's nothing that just says you get to put a Buddy monster in your ride line. It's just if you're playing Buddyfight, it's super weird. It's kind of just a because Bushy said so moment. So yeah, you have an extra slot in your ride line for your Buddy monster. You don't have to rip it out of your actual ride line. It just kind of sits in your ride deck, and then when you flip your flag up, you put it in your order zone. So it's neat, I guess. The really weird part is this last ability, the continuous Vanguard order zone. This card is unaffected by any abilities, and if you would ride or call or play an ability of a card, if it's a Buddyfight card and it's a Dragon World or generic, you may ride or call or play that ability. Now, clearly, this text is trying to accomplish the same goal as the actual Buddyfight flags that say you can only play cards from Dragon World or generic, but these are worded in a really weird way, and the problem is there's no prohibitive text on them. Like, it doesn't say you can't play other cards. It just says if you would play a card, and it's this card, you may play that card. It's worded really messy, and it leaves the door open for a lot of weird interpretations. Like, I would not be surprised if there's some Timmies at your locals that say they're playing the Dragon World flag, and then they go to play a Danger World card, and you go, hey, you can't do that, and they go, well, it doesn't say I can't. The card doesn't say I can't play it. It doesn't say I can't do it. It just says if I would ride or call or play the ability of a card, if I would call the Danger World card, if it's Dragon or generic, I may continue to do so, but it doesn't say can't. Granted, it technically reads correctly. It's just really confusing, and you know, you're having Vanguard players try to read these cards. So I would not be surprised if you encounter many scenarios of people trying to play out other world cards in a Dragon World deck because, you know, the flag, it doesn't say that you can't. It just says that if you would play a Dragon World card, you may play a Dragon World card. It's just not, it's worded in a really weird and confusing way, and that's going to be a common theme that we're going to see of there's a lot of because Bushy said so, and then just things are supposed to kind of just infer that aren't like written down anywhere specific, and I can't say I'm a big fan of it. A second issue we see is with the crest. Now, if you don't know, I'm not a big fan of crests. I'm not a big fan of the index cards that just have rules written on them that change the way the game works. It's not my favorite method of design, and it's one that I don't really agree with. So here's the Buddyfight one. It's the gauge zone. which is a ride deck crest. And when you ride, you can put a flag from your soul into your order zone to put this card into your crest zone and put the top 2 cards of your deck face down as Gauge. Has the continuous of you can have Gauge, and then auto, and this card is put into the crest zone, or at the start of your ride phase, put a card from your hand face down as Gauge and draw a card. It's the classic Buddy Fight charge and draw. Woo, Buddy Fight mechanics, let's go! And then finally, the ability Buddy Call, act once per fight. If your Vanguard is a grade 3, you may call a Buddy monster from your order zone and counter charge 1. Funny thing, this is already better than Buddy Calling and Buddy Fight. Buddy Fight, you just gained a life, which is incredibly inconsequential, but here you get a whole counter charge, which is really, really, really nice. But this does something that I really don't like, and it's a thing that I harp on a lot of custom cards for doing. So like, say you have a card, like, here's my Vanguard custom card, it's the Dark Magician, and it lets you fusion summon a fusion monster. And you go, well, Vanguard doesn't have fusion monsters, how does that work? And they go, oh yes, so this card allows you to play an extra deck, and then in the extra deck, you have the fusion units, and then you play this Polymerization spell card. Vanguard doesn't have spell cards. Oh, you're right, you play this Polymerization order card, and that lets you combine 2 rear guards into a fusion unit out of your extra deck, and you're just, I don't like it when you add extra mechanics into a game. I think collabs are fine, they're cool, but when they introduce like unique game mechanics into a game, I think we start to enter into a bit of like a problematic territory. It's one that I don't really like. And it's not only that, but we're also just kind of like, I really like it in games that are IP based, when you take this character from this IP and you put them into your game, and then you think, how does this character work through the language of the card game, right? What we're seeing here instead is taking an IP and then changing the game we're putting it into to fit that IP and feel like that IP, and I don't like that. I really wish we would have had like you take Osmodai, and then you put him in Vanguard, and then you think, how would Osmodai work in the language of Cardfight Vanguard? But instead, what we're doing is we're changing the language of Cardfight Vanguard to just be Buddy Fight. And I'm not a big fan of that. And like, forgive me for saying that it's not the most creative thing in the world. Like, we're not being emblematic of the feeling of buddy calling, or like the feeling of using Gauge. We just put Gauge in the game. We just said Cardfight Vanguard has Gauge now, and you can just buddy call cards. Like, it's very ham-fisted in its approach, and I don't really like it that much. Sorry. We also get this now. We get more order zone slop. So for all you that love the order zone slop, we get this, which is great. I mean, the order zones looked worse before, so I guess you can't really complain, but I don't like the concept of just taking a mechanic from a different game and then shoving it into another game. I think it's kind of gross and isn't the most elegant. Not to use the word elegant, because I hate when players use the word elegant because they don't know what it means, but it's not the most elegant thing of all time. And we see that throughout the game. Like, units have Soul Guard now, and you can give Rearguard Soul, but they can't call it Soul because in Buddy Fight it's called Soul, but Vanguard also has Soul. They have to change the name to now Buddy Soul, so that it is differentiated from your Vanguard Soul. So now you can put stuff into your Buddy Soul, which is now your Rearguard Soul. But this means that, like, Buddy Soul is a thing in Vanguard now, so you can print a non-Buddy Fight unit that has Buddy Soul, but it's Buddy Fight. It's so, I don't know. I don't like introducing core mechanics into games via IPs. But it's so we can have Drum have Soul Guard. It's so they can have Soul Guard because the Buddy Fight thing, because Vanguard has to be Buddy Fight now. We just have to, what do we do for the Buddy Fight collab? We turn the game into Buddy Fight. Whoa. Like, sorry, I don't like it. Like, this is like, imagine if for the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy collab, they announced it and said, look, we're collabing with Final Fantasy. All your favorite Final Fantasy characters are on Magic cards now. Woo! Except now they don't have power toughness. They have one number and it's in thousands. You don't take life point damage anymore. Instead, your cards go to the Vanguard damage zone, otherwise known as the break area. And then there's just like index card that changed the rules of Magic, where now you don't have mana anymore. Instead, you discard cards to pay for the mana costs. And also you draw 2 cards a turn to mirror, and all this to, mirror the actual Final Fantasy TCG. But like, it's no longer Final Fantasy and Magic the Gathering. You've changed Magic the Gathering to just become the Final Fantasy trading card game. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. of like, it's Vanguard, but we've morphed it to actually be Buddyfight, but also still be Vanguard at the same time. It's like this weird half. It's just like, it feels very forced, but it also kind of works in a weird way. It kind of works because Gauge is actually just a replacement for energy. It works exactly. You can just think of one Gauge as EB3, and it works functionally identical. The only thing is now, energy charging every turn lets you filter a card out of your hand, which can be good and bad. If your deck draws too many cards that could deck you out, but like also you get a filter for energy charging. So like, it's actually kind of neat. Like, it works too well. It works really well, and like, the Buddy Soul thing isn't that messy in and of itself. Like, it works. The only problem is like its implications for like the rest of Vanguard as a whole. Of now, if they want to do this mechanic of giving Rearguard Soul, it kind of has to be Buddy Soul. But oh well, it still like works fine. They introduce items into the game, which should be messy, but like we already have arms cards from Buff Sagara, so like we kind of already understand how all these work. And it is kind of funny though, because like in Buddyfight, the items are what allow you to attack and like participate in the game, whereas in Vanguard, you and your buddy are the same person from the start. So like, these don't get the exact same feeling as they do in Buddyfight, but it works. And that's kind of a theme that we're seeing with all these Buddyfight cards, is that the design is really sloppy and ham-fisted and very forced, but it still works anyways, somehow. It's very odd. It's sort of like, it's very weird. It's sort of like drunken kung fu or whatever it's called, the drunk fighting style, where it's like, that shouldn't work at all, but somehow you've stumbled your way into functionality. Good on you, I guess. They also have the thing where, you know, they made link attacking, which is really, it's just boost. It's boosting with a special effect that puts the card into a unique state, and then you can boost with anything on your board. Like, that's functionally what it is. It's just boost, which, you know, works in the context of Vanguard. So like the link attacking, as kind of forced as it is, ends up working fine. Now, where they get really weird, and one of the things I really want to talk about, is the orders. So Buddyfight has spell cards. Now, how are we going to translate spells into Vanguard? Well, obviously, you make them orders. You make them orders. It's pretty straightforward. You just make them orders. So these are okay, but we do end up getting stuff like this, like Blue Dragon Shield, which is an order with Sentinel. So now we get to play effectively like 4 like kind of Elementarias. You can't play them for free, but if you have no face-up cards in your damage, and you get countercharge 1, which is really, really good. Like, that's kind of good. It's obviously emblematic of Blue Dragon Shield. Something you'll also notice, not to backtrack too hard, they really like to try to, it's not quite copy pasting. It is copy pasting, but it's not like a malicious way. They try to make these cards as functionally identical to the Buddyfight counterparts as possible. So like, Sunshine Impact here. When your Vanguard attacks a grade 3 or greater, if it's in the link attack state with a buddy monster, you can discard a Sunshine Impact from your hand, and for this battle, your Vanguard's power becomes infinity and it gets critical +1. And some people might be thinking, whoa, you get infinity power. That's so new and creative and cool. What a unique and new idea. It's not new. It's actually just what Sunfist does in Buddyfight. And Buddyfight, Sunfist is if you're like attacking with your buddy, you get infinity power. The only thing difference here is you have to discard a copy of it, and it gives it a critical. But like, it's functionally just trying to be as identical as it can to the original copy. And we see that with all the drums and stuff like Blue Dragon Shield, where in Buddyfight, it's a counter spell. It's counter timing, where your opponent attacks, so you play this, you negate the attack, and then you get to charge 1 gauge, which is funny that this doesn't charge a gauge. Instead, it counter charges 1, which is way better than getting a gauge. But, you know, who am I to complain? This card's great. It's stuff like that. It works fine enough. Obviously they're orders, so they're only once per turn, so that's kind of unfortunate. You can't like spam them, so that might hurt things like Magic World, but we'll see how they skirt around that. The real interesting thing they do, and the one thing that I think is actually really awesome about this collab, is the trigger orders. So these are super sick. I mean, they're what they sound. They are orders that are also triggers. And the way these work functionally is that they have 2 effects. They have an order effect that you play during your turn, the normal orders. So for example, Drago Energy is choose one of your armor dragons and it gets 3k for the turn. And they have a second effect. They have a continuous that during your opponent's turn, this card may be called to Guardian Circle as a trigger unit, and it becomes a Guardian with grade 0 and shield 5,000. So they become triggers, they become trigger units defensively, but on your turn, instead of being a 5k, you can call it like a boost with or get some other effect. They're like a spell card you can play. They're an order you can play for an effect. Now, I think these are really neat. I think these occupy a really cool design space where now you get to make the decision of, you have a card that is both your best defensive option because it's 15k shield, it's the highest defense you'll get, and if you've watched my video about triggers, you know just how imperative it is that you have triggers on hand to be able to, like, you know, survive at all. You get to now sacrifice that 15k shield to instead get a bonus effect during your turn. I think that's really interesting. You get to sacrifice defense for offense or, you know, value on your turn, and you get to kind of make that decision. The problem is I don't trust Bushy to be able to walk that line. The issue is that triggers are so imperative defensively. They are your best mode of defense. You're going to need a really, really, really good reason to discard that 15k shield on your turn and not use it defensively. And I'm sorry, but getting 3,000 power is not that good of a reason. And we see this with the other ones. We have the other crit, where you pay 1 gauge to choose a grade 2 or less rearguard and put this card as its Buddy Soul. Getting extra Buddy Soul is cool, but it's a whole gauge, and you lose 15k shield. The draw trigger, whoa, that is cropped. The draw trigger, as you can guess, guards for only 5k, but its effect is Counterblast 1, discard your entire hand to draw 2? Like, I'm sorry, but in the game of Vanguard, if you ever only have 2 cards in hand, you're already kind of, like, out of luck. I get it, you can activate this if this is your only card in hand and draw 2. That's okay, but man, I don't know if that's all that worth playing. I don't even think you play this at all. I think you just go 8 crit. There's the front, which is you just put it into your gauge. It's okay, it's probably the best out of all of them, but it's still, man, is 1 gauge worth losing an entire 15k shield? I don't think so. And I think that's a problem a lot of these trigger orders are going to have, is that either the effect is so broken, you always activate it, or there's just no way to justify using the effect when the cost is losing 15k shield in hand. I think the cost is too great. So while I think this is a super neat idea, it's going to be one that's almost impossible to execute, like, well, to actually, like, force you to make the decision to discard, to use it on your turn or not, because most of these cards are either going to be Drago Energy, where why would you ever activate this on your turn? The 15k is way more valuable. Or you get cards like Dragonic Thrust and, like, Dragon Barrier, where, like, there's maybe a time when you want this, but man, it is going to be so hard to justify losing 15k shield when that is your primary form of defense, right? Especially in Standard, where, like, you take any 15k shield you can find, you take happily to be able to hope to live a turn. The only card that's actually interesting is Green Dragon Shield, the heal, where this doesn't have a typical main phase order effect. Instead, it has a bonus when you guard with it, where auto, when it's placed on Guardian Circle, if you have no face-up damage, you can discard a card from hand to countercharge 1. That's super neat. I think that's super cool. And I think this is the design space these should exist in. If they ever do port these over to regular Vanguard, which I think they should, I think this is a really cool use of triggers. Instead of them being trigger units, you instead make them trigger orders, where you sacrifice, instead of being able to, like, say, call them on your turn for 5k boost, they give you a bonus effect when you guard with them that's more in line with, like, a spell card. I think that's super cool, and I think this could be, like, the defensive power creep Vanguard's kind of been looking for. Now, granted, the one issue is this only guards for 5k. This is like a draw, it only guards for 5k shield. I don't think that's great. That's kind of lame. But I think in a world where everything but the draw guards for 15 and then has some sort of bonus effect on top of it, could be the kind of defensive creep Vanguard needs. Maybe instead of defensive number go higher, which is what we'll most likely see for a defensive creep, which isn't really that great. It's just tipping the needle in the other direction. Like, that's not awesome. Instead, put more utility on our defensive pieces and let us, like, do things. Now, granted, this doesn't help you defensively. This helps you on your turn, lets you lose a card for counter charge. But I think that's a really neat design space. I think these are super cool. These are a super cool idea, and they rock. I think these really rock. The problem is it's a classic Bushy Road, great idea in concept, but like not only like terrible execution, but like they can't execute on this. It's too fine of a line to walk, especially for Bushy Road. They're just not going to be able to balance these things properly, which, you know, is unfortunate, but, you know, kind of is what it is. We also get an over trigger, because of course we do. And it's feature card Buddyfight. The additional effect is you choose a normal unit from drop, put it into your hand, choose your Vanguard, and then it gets crit +1. And then choose a Buddy monster and it gets crit +1. It's basically just buffed Blue OT. For the most part, it's just buff Blue OT. It's kind of all it is. It's just a buff Blue OT. It's normal units, so you can't really loop your PGs with your Blue Dragon shields, but it's like, whatever. You just give 2 things crits. It's pretty solid. It's just like somewhat buff Blue OT. There's a cycle of generic order triggers, which are fine. The front and the draw are effect triggers. The draw is in front, so you get an extra 5k when you guard with them. And then you have the soul front. And then the unique one is this crit, which is just, you can put it into the soul of any of your cards and then give them soul guard. That's kind of cool. But again, does this really justify losing 5k shield? I think this one might be close because it gives you soul guard, so you can give a unit protection. That's a cool idea, sacrificing 5k shield to defend your Vanguard in order to protect your rear guards. Like, that's kind of neat. And it's a cool concept. I think this one has the most legs, but for the most part, you're going to be playing your orders more like these, where they're just the effect triggers. You guard, it's guards for 20k. 20k shield. We take that. You take those. The last thing we'll hit on is the orders, these impacts. Of course, you know, we have to turn the game into Buddyfight, which means we have to translate every single Buddyfight card into a Vanguard card. So here's the impacts. They're like fancy orders. This card can't be played, and if you have not resolved the ability of an impact during this fight, you may use this ability. This does not count towards your 1 order per turn. So it's like, it's an order, but it's not at all. It's an order, but not at all. It's an order in name only. So the way this works is auto hand at the end of your turn. If your opponent has 4 or more damage and you Persona Robe this turn, you can cost Counterblast 1, discard this card, and pay 4 gauge and declare Final Phase, which is really funny because I get that it's a flavor thing. In Buddyfight, there's a phase called the Final Phase where you play your impacts, but in Vanguard, that phase doesn't exist. So you're saying it for flavor purposes, but at the same time, you're kind of declaring a fake phase. So you can run into some funny situations, like new players, like, wait, what's the final phase? I didn't know that phase. And they pull up their like little rule sheet, like, where's the final phase? What is that? And like, no. I'm just saying it in quotes for flavor reasons. I am not actually announcing the moving to a different phase. I am just declaring the word final phase. It's a funny distinction you might have to make, but regardless, the effect is choose one of your Vanguards, stand it, and it attacks your opponent's Vanguard. All of your end of turn abilities stay active, so it doesn't like get rid of anything. It's basically just Dreg Veda on a stick, kind of. The thing is, they really nailed it on trying to put impacts into Vanguard, because I think just like impacts in Buddyfight, these cards are going to be way too slow and way too expensive to justify actually playing. Maybe you play 1 or 2 for flavor reasons, but like, man, you're going to be spending so much gauge on stuff like calling Drum Bunker Dragons throughout the game that like the only way you can justify paying this is if you're able to like make a board and just keep that board forever and then accrue 4 gauge. It's possible, it's absolutely possible, but like, it's kind of a hard sell. And it's going to be just like impacts in Buddyfight. We're like, yeah, they're really cool, but competitively speaking, they're a little too slow to actually justify. The only one that was playable in Buddyfight at the beginning was Gargantua Punisher, because it said just kill your opponent. It just dealt so much damage. It made you only have to play half the game, and then you just hit the win button. And this card's close, but not quite. So it's like, yeah, do you want to burn 4 gauge on Dreg Veda on a stick? If you can afford that, great, play this card. If you cannot and it's too slow, that's kind of understandable, and it's how impacts were in actual Buddyfight. I'm not going to talk about the 7 different Drum Bunker Dragons. If you want to go read them on your own, you can do that. This video is more just for me to talk about the concept of the Buddyfight collab sort of as a whole, and my thoughts on it in general, and like mechanically speaking. Because I was reading a lot of these cards, and I gotta say, I was a little disappointed at how they implemented a lot of things. I was personally more hoping for just a regular Vanguard set with Buddyfight cards on it, and like creative ways of translating the Buddyfight effects into Vanguard. I wasn't really expecting them turning Vanguard into Buddyfight. Is it cool? Kind of. But it's also something that I give custom card makers a lot of flack for doing, so like I kind of have to remain consistent in that position, where yeah, I do think it's a kind of like a messy way to do it, and I don't know if I want to call it lazy, but it's a little lazy. Like, I've seen people be like, oh my gosh, they're cooking with these Buddyfight designs. Oh, these designers are geniuses. When the design is, Vanguard has Gauge now. Vanguard has Soul Guard. Like, they just took the concept from Buddyfight and then just stapled it to Vanguard, which, while it kind of works, it does kind of work in the end, it's a little sloppy and a very ham-fisted way of getting there. Like, did you pound the square brick into the round hole? Yeah, it went through, and it was a messy process, but like, I mean, it went through the hole in the end. I just didn't really like how it went through the hole, you know? I wish there was a bit cleaner of a way to put it through the hole, but granted, at the end of the day, this is all just my opinion, and don't get me wrong, I'm super excited for the Buddyfight collab. I love Buddyfight, and I cannot wait to see like what kind of cards they give us. I'm just a little disappointed in now expecting, like, when I go to think about what cards they can give us, now it's not going to be like, oh man, I wonder how they translate this into Vanguard. It's going to be, no, they're just going to staple the text onto a Vanguard card and then just like say that it works the way that it does, you know, or introduce a billion mechanics to make it work the way that it does. It's like, man, how do we give cards Soul Guard? I'll just give them Soul Guard. And then just say like, yeah, you can put cards into Rearguard Soul now. It's called Buddy Soul, and then cards can have Soul, you know what I mean? So what I'm thinking about really cool cards like Dual Seeger, or like the Cotton World Impacts, and like Osmodai, like Magic World spell slinging stuff. I don't really get excited to see how they're going to translate those things into Vanguard, because they're not going to translate them. They're just going to put them in Vanguard. But with that being said, I'm still very excited to see what happens. I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there, because I was seeing a lot of people get really, really excited over things that we yell at custom card makers for doing all the time. So it is one of those situations of like, yeah, decision bad until decision involves IP that you like and actually done by the company. Then it's justified and makes sense. But if a custom card maker does it, oh my gosh, you're a moron and stupid, and what you can't do. You can't just make up new mechanics and put them into the game. But oh, when John Bushira does it, yeah, that's fine. That's A-okay. And I get it, because they make the game, they can do whatever they want. They have the right to do that. But that doesn't mean it's not like kind of lame, right? Like it's cute that like, oh, it's Vanguard, but it's Buddyfight. But like, I don't know. I'm rambling at this point, but you know, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. What do you think about the Buddyfight collab? Is the design lazy? Is just saying we have Gauge now kind of lame? Do you hate the index cards that change the rules as much as I do? Or do you love it? Are you like, I cannot wait to just play Buddyfight in Vanguard? I'm so thrilled. Frick you, stupid YouTube man. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just being a hater. Blah. Regardless, let me know what you think down in the comments, because I'm very eager to see all of your opinions and stuff like that. But with that being said, thank you for watching this very long video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Maybe I'll talk about more Buddyfight cards. Who knows? But with that being said, thank you for watching.